But how have you seen that going away from your head, really tapping into your heart, has helped your business flourish?
I mean, I feel like I get to create it from me instead of the version of me I thought people wanted me to be.
Welcome to the Relaunch Podcast. And this interview, this guest has been a long time coming. And it is someone that I personally am so excited to dive deep, to go into those relaunches that truly shape us, that shaped her into new careers, new success, new love, relationships. And the person I'm talking about is Marley Jaxx. She's an award-winning filmmaker and globally recognized expert in video creation, YouTube growth, and content strategy. She is the go-to consultant for top industry leaders, and you will hear this is like no doubt really important these days in who you're working with, how you're working with. Do those people bring you up, elevate you along the way? Her creative expertise transforms brands into icons and entrepreneurs into successful empire builders. Key right there too. If we're going to go big. And that is what this is all about. And at this point, she's really helping people convert their influence into currency, the big M, money. Marley is here to help us all be more successful. Let's get out of our own way. Her resilience is evident in her move from Canada to America in the middle of the pandemic. And let me just say, and this is something that we're going to get into, it was all during a divorce. She's also, unfortunately, in the same club I am. She's had cancer. But here's the thing, the relaunches have truly defined this incredibly beautiful person on the outside and the inside. And so today, I want to welcome Marley Jaxx to the Relaunch Show and have you, Marley, explain that most significant, and I know there are a lot, the most significant relaunch, if there really truly can be, and maybe it's like a tapestry, maybe everything is interwoven, but let's start at the point where you really defined yourself in terms of your resilience and your relaunch.
Thanks for having me. First of all, it's like we've been hearing about each other in our circles for so long, so I'm so glad to finally be speaking. And this topic is one that I love to talk about because I have often said and thought and written about that the hardest times in my life were the most magical. Like the times where I was just dragging my face against the pavement, trudging through the mud, they were so impossibly painful at the time. There were times where I was near suicidal because of how hard things were. But now, you can connect the dots looking backwards. They were the best things to ever happen to me. And
you know what? I'm even going to say this. A lot of times I ask either on the show or after the show, we talk about these relaunches. And if you could go back and change anything, would you?
Yeah. Do you want the resilience or do you want experience? Yeah, I will experience that again 10 times over to continue to have what I have today. Irreplaceable.
And you know what? Again, 250 plus guests on the show. Not one has ever said, oh my God, let me change that up. You are who you are today. This incredibly dynamic woman, successful woman, wonderfully, involved in a relationship of, and we talked before the show, that you are where you are because of that path, because of the hardships. But we need to understand, what was the relaunch journey that you went through?
Well, I mean, you kind of brushed over some of the things. I would say 2020, which was a relaunch for a lot of people, when the world fell apart and we had to find a new normal and then get back to normal, the new normal again. I was going through a divorce. I did not feel comfortable in my hometown where I had my marriage. And so I moved to America. And it's funny, I mean, I made up papers that said that I was an essential worker to go to America in the middle of the pandemic while we still had no idea what was going on. And the most interesting part, and this has become such a framework for my life, I went to Omaha to be with a guy that I was in a brand new relationship with, which certainly looking back was definitely a rebound. But back then it's like, no, I'm healed. I already did the hardest part of leaving my marriage. And I actually verbally said, I will never be heartbroken again, because I really believed that leaving the marriage was the hardest thing, and that I'd done all the work, and that I'd even, you know, for a lot of times for women during a breakup, they're grieving during the breakup, that by the time it's over, it's like really over. But I really had no idea
How long were you married?
We were together for 6 years, married for 3.
And you said it was during the pandemic that you decided to make that decision that not just I'm going to get divorced, but I'm going to move to the United States. But what really caused you? Because I think there's a lot of women out there that are having tough relationships, and there's that moment of like, when do you know you're really done? When do you know that it's over?
And now looking back, it seems like it was one of those things that it was a long time coming. Another relaunch. I was a dental hygienist when we got married, which is very different than what I do today.
But still, when you say it, it still blows my mind. I mean,
Right.
where you are today, you talk about that journey. I get a lot of corporate women coming on, and that I haven't had a dental hygienist. So this is an awesome story. So here you are cleaning people's teeth in their mouth. You know, there's not a lot of talking when you're doing that.
No.
And so what was it you were dissatisfied with the job, with the marriage? I mean, what came first? It's like the chicken or the egg. Which one really started the process?
It was the job first. Growing up, like my dream was to make movies in Hollywood, and I'm a very creative person. Even before that, I worked in event management. I worked in radio and television. So I was very much in creative businesses, but in those industries, it was very, very ego driven and not the nicest people to be around. So when I kind of had enough of that, had my heart broken enough there, went back to dental as my fallback plan. Let me figure out what I really want to be when I grow up, after spending some time in dental, which didn't take long to get bored, because I mean, like you said, you have your hands in someone's mouth. It's a one-way conversation. It's repetitive. You're not very creative at all. And so I started this little side business as a social media manager, which I didn't know at the time was going to be a big trigger for my divorce, because I think that when we got married, I was a dental hygienist, and that was the lifestyle he signed up for. And then I changed. I wanted to run a business. I wanted to travel and do speaking engagements and be very social with that business, which was not what he wanted, and at times was very threatening. And I was the one that changed. And so as a result, that led to the big dismantling of
So how long were you doing social media when all of a sudden you're like, listen, this is what I really want to do, that you decided to say, we're done?
I mean, so I started the social media business around the time we got married. So we'd been together for 3 years, got married, and then 3 years later got the divorce. But it was in the time that I was like slowly leaving dental and building my business more, that red flags started to come up of him not agreeing with it, not really wanting this direction of life. And it just got to the place at the end of the marriage where it was just very clear that the more that I wanted to grow the business and travel and explore my ambitions, it was constant butting heads over just different desires for lifestyle. And unfortunately, at the time, we were not mature enough to be able to do the conscious uncoupling. When you feel threatened over losing what you thought was your life, it came out very, unfortunately, lots of fighting.
So do you think people that are listening right now, where relationships have dramatically changed, right, since COVID, in the sense that many people are working from home. You see your, partner or your boyfriend or your husband a little bit more than you would have when people were going off to offices and doing their things. And there is this moment of truth. And I want to make sure everyone knows that social media is not going to lead to divorce, right? We need to make sure that there is the delineation of this is so incredible where we're going with this and how you can, doesn't matter what it is that is your passion, going full force is something that you have to be willing. And I did this with my own life with my first husband. I was married for almost 13 years. And you realize that at some point you got to go for your dreams. Mm-hmm. And you have said many times that I have heard that you finally are in this place where it is, it's not the decoupling. It's not that conscious. It's the being present in where you are. And I'd love to ask you, as you were moving to the US and you said that there was, a guy, and can you walk us through how the evolution happened? Because you do think, I'm good. I've dealt with it. I got the divorce. That was so hard. My wounds are healed. I call them, limiting beliefs, the bugs, the beliefs underground surfacing, they're gone. Don't have many more, but they always seem to creep up again. Yeah. So what happened with you?
So I went to Omaha to go be in a new relationship. And I had this all built up in my mind of he is everything my ex-husband wasn't. And this is my love story and my happily ever after. And it lasted 1 week. And
1 week and you're in Omaha.
Yeah. And I packed up everything that I could into 2 suitcases thinking this is, you do crazy things when you're in love, and definitely was doing crazy things. And I went with this big expectation because in our long distance relationship, because this was kind of a new relationship, he had said things of like, I could see us being together. I could see this, leading to marriage, and I want to be with you. Let's just be crazy. Why don't you come here? Let's move in and let's start a life together. Mm-hmm. And about a week in, after meeting his friends, his family, his, colleagues, his employees and stuff, I said, hey, why don't you ever introduce me as your girlfriend? And he goes, well, I don't want to put a label on it. I don't want to move too fast. And I'm like, I
just moved here.
So I packed up everything and I was like, that doesn't work for me. And I went to Boise, where I live now, because my best friend lives in Boise, and she said, just come here. And she had been asking me the whole time during the pandemic to come move in with her, and just so that we could be together during the pandemic. I wouldn't be alone up in Canada. And I just kept saying no because I didn't want to impose. But how perfect that going through Omaha is what really brought me to Boise. But when I arrived, I and my friend that my best friend that I lived with said, when you arrived, you were unrecognizable. Like, I did not know that girl. I was so heartbroken. I really internalized his emotional unavailability as a reflection of my self-worth. I thought, what is wrong with, I had that expectation that I would never be heartbroken again. I thought I already did the hardest thing. And here I took a huge leap to go be with him with this expectation that I was going to have my fairy tale. And I felt so rejected. And I really naively thought that he was going to turn around and go, I made a huge mistake. I can't live without you. Come back. And he sure didn't. And that led to tons of therapy, which then allowed me to see all the other limiting beliefs, the baggage that I was holding that I had no idea. And so now I love being able to say, thank you, Omaha, because if it wasn't for Omaha, I wouldn't have come to Boise. I wouldn't have gone through all that therapy. And that therapy is what led me to find the man that I'm with now, who before I would have said, and I did say when he started to pursue me, he wasn't my type, because my type was narcissist, manipulator, cheater, abuser. So now whenever something...
Those great guys.
Oh, yeah. You know what? Why can't you just be a little rude to me? Knock me around a little bit. That's terrible. But if I ever have something in my life that doesn't seem like it's going according to plan, I think maybe it's just Omaha. Maybe it's just the thing that I had a high expectation for. And when it didn't work out, the next best thing that was unimaginable to me at the time was right behind it.
Oh my God, I love maybe it's just Omaha.
It's just Omaha.
That is the best line. And each and every one of us should have a line like that.
What's
right?
your thing that was the huge disappointment that led to the biggest breakthrough of your life?
Yeah. And a lot of times, and Marley, I'm sure that you can agree, and we can go into your health scare and your issues around there. But there's always that moment, I call it the relaunch flip, where your story ties to something in the past that is keeping you kind of contained. It's keeping you at a lower vibrational energy. And as soon as you can flip that story and start to say, hey, you know what? Maybe it's just Omaha. All of a sudden, it gives you a freedom.
Yeah.
There's such a freedom there because you know you've gotten through. You know that you have survived and thrived. And it's such a powerful phrase. So I want each and every person to really think about it and say, maybe it's just, and then ... What would it be? What would that be? Okay, so tell us about your health. Tell us what happened there.
Yeah, I of course didn't see that coming. I thought that the scary diagnosis stuff that happens to other people. That happens in the movies, that happens to people that are unhealthy. That would never happen to me. So I went for my regular, female physical, and they said, hey, something looks a little strange. Why don't you come back in 6 months? We'll check it out again. I go back in 6 months, do the, the PAP again, and still looks a little abnormal. Why don't you come in and we'll do, they call it ECC, which is like a little deeper of a PAP. And so I had that. And while they were in there, which, ladies listening, it's the most uncomfortable, most vulnerable position to be in.
Horrible. And I've had what you had done, and that's even more painful.
Oh, yeah. No, thank you. Like, well, trauma right there.
Right there, both of us.
So they're like, so we're seeing something. We're just going to do a little biopsy just right here, which I was not prepared, not emotionally, physically prepared for. Gosh. So they did, which is not uncomfortable, especially ladies that probably listening to this are probably cringing.
Mm-hmm. Crossing our legs right now. How I am.
And then they called back saying, hey, there's just this, I can't remember what the word for it was, but they said, we're going to do something called a leap procedure, which is where they kind of just scrape off with an electric loop kind of thing, where there's some abnormal cells. We're just going to remove it. After that, it'll be totally fine. This is a normal procedure. Well, they did that. And I'm so glad my boyfriend came with me, hold my hand it was traumatic. And then after that, I was like, it was all done. No problem. You're fine. This, see you in a year for your next PAP, whatever. But I got a call a couple weeks later, which happened to be 2 days before Christmas. And I thought that it was just a checkup call of, hey, how are things going since the procedure? But she said, hey, we didn't see this coming. This isn't very common. Actually only happens to 1 in 100,000 women. So there we go. There's me getting a badge to label on me that this, I'm rare, I'm special. That you have cervical adenocarcinoma. And we're going to, go have Christmas with your family, but we're going to book you in as soon as our office opens after Christmas. And we need to discuss you getting a hysterectomy right away. And I just, in that moment, completely froze, blank. I don't remember what happened next. Turned my phone on speaker, gave it to Steven, and
how old were you when you heard this?
I was 31. Yeah. And I was just, checked out, because that doesn't happen to me. That happens to people in the movies. No.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then I think I was kind of in a daze for a little while, that I didn't really know what that meant. I knew what it meant logically, but I just felt so surreal. And so after Christmas, went back to the doctor, and funny, you see the triage nurse that takes your vitals and stuff. And her bedside manner was not that great. Oh, your Christmas must have been so hard. Oh, so terrible to get such news right before Christmas. And I'm like, what? Why? What do you mean? Like, I'm still in a daze. And then we, talked about it again, and the doctor said, you need to get a hysterectomy so that this doesn't progress into worse cancer. And, with a hysterectomy, you need to take like 6 to 12 weeks off for recovery. And, as entrepreneurs, we got like campaigns scheduled. So I'm like, when am I going to take off 12 weeks? So conveniently, and this is another, maybe it's just Omaha moment, I scheduled it for a couple months out. I was like, do I have some time? Well, but we got to move fast. We can't as soon as possible. Luckily, I scheduled it with some time that gave me time to breathe and time to think, because after I shared it publicly, which felt terrifying to do, like I want my content to be happy and Instagram filter, and like the stuff that we all want to celebrate, not I am traumatized and don't know what this means for my future, and I don't know how I feel, and I need help, but I don't know how to ask for it. I'm so grateful that I did share that, because
why did you decide to share it?
I needed help, and it's so funny because I talked to a friend saying, because when people, loving, amazing, well-meaning people reach out with love and attention and suggestions and support, there was part of me, and I told my friend this, that I felt guilty for receiving that. I felt guilty for the attention to be on me, because this isn't the kind of attention I want. Right. I would rather have the attention of like, my business just made $1 million, not I have cancer and I don't know how to cope right now. Can someone help me? And it was a really
powerful that you did that, and you shared with people that time of vulnerability. You said it was a couple months before
no, I shared it less than a month later.
And then how long before you had the surgery?
I didn't.
You didn't?
No.
So, okay, now I'm even more intrigued. Okay, so what happened? What happened here?
So when I shared this, and the thing about, like, we know as entrepreneurs, when you create content on the internet, you never know who's listening that's gonna just be so inspired by what you have to say, but you also never know who's out there that could be an answer that you need. Because here I'm like, I'm 31 years old. What if I want to get pregnant? How is this going to change my body hormonally, sexually, skeletally, like all the things that are unknown after having such a permanent surgery? So I'm so grateful, because when I made that post, of course, I got flooded with love, ideas, suggestions, and some that really spoke through were a friend of mine who has a book called Chris Beat Cancer. He had a story that he had stage 3B colon cancer, and he healed it naturally. And then I also had a friend that's a functional medicine doctor that she said, hey, but before you have the surgery, can we do some tests, and if you do decide to have the surgery, I will support you in that, but let's just also see what else is going on in the body. And I was so grateful, especially to those two people, my functional medicine doctor, Dr. Kelly Shockley, and Chris Wark, because Chris on the phone to me said, number one, you have time, which I didn't feel from the doctor saying we have to have this surgery right away. It's a ticking time bomb. Right. And he also taught me, because here I am thinking I have the kind of cancer that only 1 in 100,000 women have. It's different. It's special. It's rare. I'm doomed. Instead, he was like, I don't care what type it is, what location, what stage, the healing mechanism is the same. And then pair that with the functional medicine doctor that did these tests with me to show me the cause of the cancer, instead of just the symptom, instead of just,
God, that is so good.
Right?
Because these are all symptoms.
Right. No doubt. What I didn't feel them. It's just what this doctor is telling me. I didn't feel sick or anything. I just got this news that is going to change my life. If we would have gone through with the surgery, it could have been like painting over a water leak. If we don't know what causes the cancer and don't heal that, how do we know that this isn't just going to move to a different area of my body, or the same issue is going to show up somewhere else? Like, if the body has created an environment for cancer to form, can we just reverse that to create an environment for healing? How is a hurricane formed? In the perfect conditions. How does a hurricane go away? In the perfect conditions.
So this is amazing because, I have not heard this. Obviously, this is the first time I'm hearing about this. And I had to make a decision about a year ago to have a full hysterectomy or not. And I did a lot of research, and I too asked a tremendous amount of people, and I chose not to do it as well, for different reasons than you. Mm-hmm. But it was a decision that I really felt like it was right, even though the doctors were saying, no, you should do this, you should do this. So I am absolutely on pins and needles right now. I need to understand what happened during this process.
Yeah. There was definitely a lot of, emotional turmoil in what do I do? Am I doing the right thing? And of course, opinions from all sides of, yes, this is the way to go. And some people are like, you're going to die. What are you thinking? Don't you care about your life and your family and all the things, all the well-meaning judgments and concerns. And so when I did the tests with this functional medicine doctor, who I will work with her for the rest of my life, because if you're not testing, you're guessing. How do you know what's actually going on? Like, we might feel okay.
We should be saying that with everything in life. If you're not testing, you're guessing. Let's just coin that right now for you. Okay. Agree.
How would I make business decisions if I don't have the data? Why would I make decisions over something so permanent, my health, without having the data? And so from these tests, what we found was I had a lot of heavy metals built up in my body. And when there's heavy metals that come from just our environment, our water, oh my gosh, don't get me started on what is in our water. Like, if you go to ewg.org, look up the tap water database, put in your zip code, you will be horrified and offended and infuriated to see what is in our regular tap water.
ewg.org.
Yes. Run, don't walk, and buy a water filter and never look back. Like, there's arsenic in our water. There's chloroform in our water. Like, do you think that even just a little amount is okay? Absolutely not. And then when you start to discover what's in our food, what's in our shampoo, what's in all these things, and it's all around us. And I am certainly not perfect. I have made improvements. There are some things that I'm like, you know what? I'm still going to put nail polish on, but I'm going to do some other things in my life a little bit differently. I'm going to do my best to continue to remove the toxins.
So you found out that you have heavy metals in your body at a very high level, and that
when there's heavy metals, your immune system is distracted because it's fighting the heavy metals.
So when you stopped and you started to really look at this heavy metals in your body, and you went back in and got tests, what happened?
So then we went on a protocol to supplement the healthy things that I needed for my I almost had a thing around me of my supplements, but I have a customized protocol, the supplements I take to optimize any nutrient deficiencies, and also supplements that are going to detox my body. So there's these chelating agents, there's sauna, even to sweat out the toxins. Also, I was on birth control for 16 years. What that does to a woman, and now I'm a huge advocate for not being on birth control. Gosh, it's like when you discover this, it's also one of those things that I can get on a soapbox and become infuriated about. That, especially, oh my gosh, I was talking to a doctor that she has heard of kids 6 years old that are being put on birth control so they can skip the bleed.
Oh, geez.
What is going to happen to that child that will never have regulated hormones? Mm-hmm. When they grow older, they will never have a libido and be able to understand, because when you are on birth control, it shuts off the communication between your ovaries and your brain. And having a menstrual cycle is a very healthy, natural thing. and is a superpower for women when they really can understand their cycle.
Mm-hmm.
So I also had to heal from 16 years of being on birth control. And when I got off of it, oh my gosh, it was like I was in this emotional tornado of
The crazies.
oh my gosh, I was like, what's wrong with me? Well, it's my body communicating with my ovaries again, and this is actually mostly normal until you have to just get
So Marley, what have the tests come back at? Like right now?
Yes. So the tests come back, and so I do these tests every 90 days, which is amazing to have that data, because normally if I would have gone for it, and I've unfortunately had friends that have had cancer, they've done chemo, and then after they had the chemo, it was like, all right, you're done. And then they live in this fear of, is it really gone? Is it going to come back? Am I okay? So I do these tests every 90 days, and I can see where the toxins are being reduced. I can see where some of the other nutrients are becoming more optimal, and I can see exactly where the cancer numbers are. Like with a panel of cancer markers that we test, and they have fluctuated. They have gone down to almost gone. They've also gone back up, which to me shows me where I'm not tight on my protocol. It's almost like when you're losing weight. If you have a big cheesecake, you step on the scale, it went up, the numbers went up. Okay, I got to get tighter on my protocol.
Yeah.
So they've fluctuated.
Right. It's funny. I was just talking to a friend today. There's someone in our life that now has cancer, and we were saying how important it is and my mom died of it, and I've had, my own bouts and other family members. And yet even the oncologist said to my friend, you know what, when she asked how important is, eating and the food and nutrition, the oncologist said, you know what, it's not going to make too big of an impact.
Wow.
And I remember when my mom was getting chemotherapy, and she was literally the drip going in her arm, and this woman came around with this like big bowl of candy and said, to my mom, would you like one? And I'm like, no, go away. I'm like, that feeds the cancer, stop. And it was just so incredible, that whole, like, what is happening with that. But I've got to keep going, because there is so much more to Marley as you have developed into. I mean, think about what has transformed since 2020, right? I mean, you've had all of these things happen. You found love. Yes. You found love. Can you share with us a little bit about this incredible, this guy from the perspective of, we talk relaunch relationships. Yeah. We talk about, as you said, you had a broken marriage, then you go and you're like, I'm never going to be married again. Never going to have this happen. And what allowed you to open up again and be willing to relaunch into love?
And this is, I love our story, because it's like when you watch a movie and you see the protagonist hit rock bottom, and then the victory is so much sweeter because of how rock bottom they were. Like, I just, to be able to reflect on where I came from, and to then be with this relationship that is like bigger and better than I could have ever imagined. He loves me so loudly. I feel like I can do my purpose with him. Like, now I wish that I, looking back, whisper in that girl's ear, like, it's okay, leave. You have no idea what's on the other side of this. It's going to be so incredible.
I just got massive chills, like from my head to my toes. That's what I know. Like, my intuition, everything is just like, oh my God, what a beautiful thing that this is what you're experiencing.
Yeah. So I moved to Boise to live with my best friend here and heal my broken heart. And gosh, thank God for her. She gave me her guest bedroom in her house with no expiration date, said just, you have a safe place to heal. And I would go to therapy 3 times a week crying over Omaha. Why doesn't he love me? What do I have to do? What did I do wrong? And Stephen, who also lives in Boise, conveniently, we're friends because we both have online businesses, and we both would speak at similar events, and we're in the same masterminds. We just became friends while I lived in Boise, and he also was going through a divorce. And so 2 entrepreneurs going through a similar thing, we were going to the same therapist, which was funny. We'd sometimes cross each other in the parking lot.
That is really funny.
Yeah. Like we would trade notes on like our therapy that week, which is, I mean, that's such an entrepreneur thing to do, like our personal development notes.
Yeah.
And he started to pursue me to let me know that he wanted more than a friendship. And I would say to him, that's, you're so nice and I love our friendship so much, but you're just not my type. Well, like I said before, my type was narcissist, manipulator, cheater, abuser. He was way too nice. He loved me for who I was. That wasn't enough.
Imagine that. Right? It's like, how great is that?
Yeah. But eventually this therapy led to me starting to see, and I'll tell you, like at the depths of my despair, like I was near suicidal. I was like, what do I have to live for? I'm never going to be loved again. Like I just really believed that. And a friend of mine told me about psychedelic therapy, which I am a huge fan of, and incredible what it's done for veterans with decades of PTSD. Like one session is like 5 years of therapy in a day. And for me, I mean, Canadian girl growing up, like drugs are bad. I was like, no way. But I also was like, what do I have to lose? I may as well try it. I'm like desperate. And so I got on a plane and went to Texas, where there was a nurse that facilitated it for me. And I came out of that, I could understand the decades of the patterns of me being attracted to emotionally unhealthy or unavailable people, and where that originated in my childhood, not to anyone's fault, just an interpretation of childhood trauma that I carried.
Why do you think that therapy worked where talk therapy wasn't moving the needle?
And the talk therapy was helpful to a point, but gosh, like this psychedelic therapy. And so what I did in this was called MDMA. And it's, I mean, for anyone that's skeptical or interested, read the clinical trials, what they've done with veterans, and just the incredible results from just one session. Because it's one session, but it's like 8 hours because it's in your system. What it does chemically is it like dumps your serotonin. So you're just this huge euphoria. It also reduces your amygdala, which is your fear, your ego. So imagine being able to look at your life with such compassion, and to be able to, it almost is like this truth serum too. Like stuff will come up that you didn't even realize that was part of your baggage. Like something that I said that I almost had to do a double take. Did I just say that? Like I said, it's easier to be poor than to ask for help or to ask for love. I said that, it just like came out of my body. It's like I witnessed it. It was like, why? That's what I believed? Oh my gosh.
That is an incredible experience you had.
Yeah. And it was, and so
having that to be able to really think about, like, where did that come from?
And I had no idea. And I had lived with it for 30-ish years of my life, just not knowing. And if I didn't have that exposure, I would have just dated the same man over and over again. Because it wasn't just my relationships. It was my friendships. It was when I had a boss, so they were my bosses.
Yeah, totally get that. So I do have to make sure, because you are such, the fact that you were willing to try, right? You're saying, hey, on one hand, suicidal, I don't even know, why am I here? Am I ever going to find love again? What's happening? I'm going to give this a try. It worked for you.
Yeah.
You ended up meeting Stephen from a different level. You were willing to open up to him. And now, how has because we talk personal, this has been a lot of personal today on the show, but I do want to talk to you about professional and the relaunches that are now going on, because your career, with this honesty that you've given yourself, with this openness to so many new modalities, your business is skyrocketing, girl. And I'd love to have you share more about what that means to you, and why do you think it's taken off so much?
Well, I'll tell you the before picture was very similar to the relationships. If I was
It's funny, isn't it? Isn't it like your business a direct reflection of your personal life? It is interesting.
Yeah. I mean, I was attracted to emotionally unavailable men. And then my clients were also people that I had codependent relationships with, that if they needed me at 2:00 in the morning, I mean, I would jump through walls to be able to get their approval. And so what kind of a business is that? That sure, I might be making money, but at what cost? So for a long time, I had clients that I was just under their thumb, but it was my own fault. Like, it could have been a completely different relationship if I was the common denominator of everything. If I would have shown up differently to that, it would have been a completely different opportunity, business, financial situation. And so the before and after too, of before and after the divorce, before and after the therapy, before and after being in a healthy relationship for the first time, was now having healthy relationships with the clients, having healthy relationships with my own productivity and my own self-worth in business. That, hey, if you don't meet a deadline, maybe it's just because you're human, and no one's gonna throw you to the wolves because you were late on something, or because this video didn't get thousands of views like the other ones did. And it's allowed me to build a business that feels like aligned with my own creative expression instead of aligned with what I think people want from me. I don't have to be a contortionist in my business anymore.
So good. And there was a video that I watched that had 2 million, people that had watched it. And I looked at your evolution, and I looked at the sincerity, and it was almost like, instead of talking, you now are really, I talk often about 3HQ: head, heart, highest self, headquarters of you. And there's a real heart base that has come out of you, that has evolved, that has come into your business. And you are, as I said at the very beginning of the show, an exceptional, you help people with YouTube and explode them into becoming those experts in the field. But how have you seen that going away from your head, really tapping into your heart, has helped your business flourish?
I mean, I feel like I get to create it from me instead of the version of me I thought people wanted me to be. And one of the things that I've marveled over, like, after my divorce, I felt more feminine. Like, I felt like in my marriage, when things weren't working, I had to, when you're constantly butting heads with someone, or when you're trying to protect yourself or provide for yourself, that's very masculine. It's very like driven, single focused. And after my divorce and letting go of that, like, oh, I don't have to protect myself anymore, especially from the person that is supposed to be your protector and provider in a marriage. I just felt more like, when you're in your feminine, that's more creative, it's more flowy, it's more connection, communication. And of course, there's times for both. Like, as women, we do have times where we're working in our masculine, and we do have times where we're working in and for men too, they can work in their feminine too. But it's just felt so much more aligned because I actually get to be me.
So where are you in 12 to 24 months? What's Marley doing?
Marley is working with big corporations to train their employees or their agents, their clients on social media and YouTube. We're going into real estate, network marketing, and companies to license our curriculums to them so that their companies can be more successful because of their individuals who are building personal brands online. And on a very creative side, continuing to build a YouTube channel that is just pure creative expression, and making movies in Hollywood.
So we've circled back.
Yes.
We've circled back. That is so good. How you haven't lost that desire. It was the wrong time. And now, because of how you've changed, how you've relaunched, it's now going to be the right time.
Yeah.
That is so awesome. So how can people find you? How can they connect with you?
Thank you. Well, yeah, come check me out on YouTube. Look up Marley Jaxx. Also Instagram/Marley Jaxx. I respond to all my DMs there, so it's never an assistant or a bot. It's always me. And you can also check out, if you go to chiefcontentofficer.co, that's how we help people to grow their content in their YouTube channels.
Marley Jaxx, and that's Jaxx. We're going to have everything in the show notes. What an awesome show today was. And I mean, it was just like, I can't tell you how much I appreciated your insights. There's so much to take away from this episode. I will definitely be going and re-listening to it. I hope everyone out there feels the same way, because there were so many nuggets, not just the maybe it's just Omaha. There were a lot in there. So definitely, everyone, check it out again. Marley, thank you for being here. And I always say, live now, love now, relaunch into your remarkable now. And let's all make that mark in the world that will have the impact that each and every one of you so deserves to make. So until next week, get out there, relaunch yourself personally, professionally. Take the advice of Marley and really don't settle. There's no time like the present to really ask yourself the question. Go back in those relaunches, replay the scripts, replay the stories you're telling yourself, and create a new one. Create like as if you are a director, you're making a movie of a lifetime, and go ahead. You're the star. You're the star of your show. So again, thank you everyone for being here, and we will be back next week. Take care.